From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
I'm Mitch Laggy. At Montana Fair, you'll find a plethora of food options. I'll take you behind the scenes of some crowd favorites coming up.
And tonight we check in with a small Billings business owner who says mask up or don't come in. But first, Senior Senator Jon Tester makes a stop in Billings today to break down the Senate-passed $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and what it means here in Montana. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. $3 billion of that is earmarked for Montana, including nearly $150 million towards a group aimed at keeping up with the Treasure State's growth. Q2's Casey Conlon explains.
The press conference was held here at Billings Logan International Airport as Tester extolled the virtues that the bill's help will give to Montana's roads, highways, internet access, and, yes, airports. That's why we're here touring the new terminal.
You're standing in a $60 million project right now. That's about halfway through.
After years of talking about the project, the group of about 20 were excited to see something tangible.
This is progress. This is moving the ball forward.
Kevin Plone says the new A-gates will open in either November, if everything goes right, or January, so that they don't cause headaches during the busy holiday season. He also addressed a number of improvements the significantly larger space will offer.
One of the things that our old concourse really lacked was restrooms. From here all the way to that end, these are all restrooms. But right here where all these guys are working, this is what we're going to call the great room. We'll have a nice bar. These will be 20-foot windows that'll be facing out to the north. Most airports after 911 struggled to come up with the space that TSA required for the screening access. So we looked at this and said, okay, whatever we have now, double it, and that way we'll be good for the next big thing.
There are already funds put aside for this entire project, but Logan will receive $19 million more over the next 5 years if the infrastructure bill becomes law, which will accelerate the overhaul.
What this infrastructure bill will allow us to do, not only finish this building, but now we can get back on that airfield and start doing some of the things we need to do out there.
We have a hard time getting businesses to come because of airfare costs. If we can get more people in here, that's going to help have competition, it's going to help drive down prices, and that's going to help businesses all over. And that's what this infrastructure can do.
Keeping up with all the Joneses, who just seem to be discovering that this is the last best place. Casey Conlon, MTN News.
Thanks, Casey. The bill will be the top priority in the U.S. House when lawmakers come back from their August break next Monday. Well, now turning to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. Ed, cooler air is moving in, and so could some storms.
Absolutely. Already seeing it in the western portion of the state through the day today. Take a look at where the unofficial highs showed up. Well, we were in the 90s here in Billings, triple digits for you in Miles City and Sheridan. How about 61 for a high in Cut Bank? And the temperature started to tumble into the afternoon as rain showers started to move in. So here's where things are right now. We're seeing some lightning strikes and some stronger storms moving in from the Bozeman, Helena area up towards Great Falls. Quite a bit of lightning, and there could be some small hail, but gusty winds are the big threat here this evening. Around Billings, there's a few lightning strikes starting to move into Yellowstone County in the last short while. So as we take it through the evening, a chance of showers, thunderstorms producing gusty winds. Some of that could move right over some of the fire areas in Rosebud County. And then tomorrow, we'll look at a renewed chance of showers, especially once we start getting into about midday in the early afternoon. More on the forecast coming up in a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, firefighters across Montana welcome that cooler air and rain as they douse more flames and dig more lines around the state's wildfires. Governor Greg Gianforte says there are currently 25 large blazes burning across Montana, and the state remains at preparedness level 5. The top priority fire is the Thorn Creek fire, 5 miles northeast of Thompson Falls. Nearly 400 firefighters are still battling those flames tonight, with several areas under evacuation or pre-evacuation orders. The state's largest wildfire here close to home remains the Richard Spring fire between Colstrip and Lame Deer. More than 300 firefighters are fighting those flames from the air and on the ground. Now, the fire remains at 65% contained tonight. The Lame Deer fire, which threatened the town last week, is now 70% contained. Since the beginning of the year, there have been just over 2,000 fire starts across Montana, burning around 792,000 acres. Now, officials estimate wildfire flames have claimed about 50 Montana homes so far this year. Well, COVID-19 cases and deaths continue to climb tonight as Montana reported over 600 new cases today for the first time since January 4th. Now that total means another grim milestone for the state as Montana surpasses 3,000 active cases. Yellowstone County saw the most new cases with 115 and also reports one new death this afternoon. 287 Yellowstone County residents have passed away from the virus, while more than 1,700 Montanans have died. Now, health experts say the best way to improve these numbers is through vaccine. And now the Associated Press reports that the COVID booster shots could begin as early as next month. Healthcare workers, nursing home residents, and other older Americans would be among the first to receive the booster shots since they were among the first to be vaccinated late last year. Now, the recommendation would be for people to get a booster shot 8 months after their second dose. The Food and Drug Administration approved boosters last week for people with compromised immune systems. Well, for the first time since the pandemic began, Montana's oil industry is seeing renewed activity. In August, 2 drilling rigs set up shop in eastern Montana. Both are horizontal rigs targeting oil production for Kraken oil gas. It marks the first time in 16 months that Montana has been able to contribute to the region's count of active oil rigs. As recent as May, Montana produced 46,000 barrels of oil per day. That's down slightly from January's production of more than 50,000 a day. By comparison, during the same month, North Dakota produced more than 1.1 million barrels a day. Alan Olson with the Montana Petroleum Association tells Q2 News that the new drilling activity is all based on economics. As oil prices range between $65 to $70 per barrel, Olson is optimistic about renewed interest in eastern Montana. He recalls the early days of the Bakken oil boom in 2002 when Montana had as many as 25 active rigs working along the western edge of the Williston Basin.
As real estate and home values escalate to historic highs in Montana, that increase could lead to higher property taxes for some. But a former state lawmaker and state auditor Troy Downing are working on a possible offset in the form of a constitutional initiative. This month, former Republican state representative and Bozeman attorney Matthew Monforton submitted language for an initiative asking voters if they want to move Montana to an acquisition value system of property assessment for tax purposes. The proposed constitutional change would cap property taxes at 1% of the property's assessed value as of December 2019. Then the assessed value of your home or business wouldn't increase any more than the annual inflation rate until it's sold to somebody else, when the assessed value would then be the sale value. Monforton says the time is ripe for this change because surging property values will lead to higher assessed values under the current system and higher property taxes. State Auditor Troy Downing is a supporter of the idea as well.
The problem that I'm trying to solve here, which I think is a very real problem, is you're going to start taxing people out of their houses. What the intent of this is to have a cap on how much the value of that house can go for tax purposes up every year to make sure that it doesn't suddenly get reassessed, from a few $100,000 to, a lot more.
Right now, the state reassesses the value of homes and businesses every 2 years for property tax purposes. If your value increases, your taxes could too, although state law does place some inflationary limits on what local governments can collect. The proposal from Monforton and Downing is very similar to California's Proposition 13, which passed in 1978. That law greatly reduced revenue for local governments, but Downing believes the Montana proposal would keep those governments at current revenue levels and allow for gradual increases. As for Downing's involvement, state law does prohibit public officials from using their office to support a candidate or ballot measure. He says he's acting as a concerned citizen to generate interest in the idea.
My hope and intention here is to get enough interest that somebody will, take the handoff and run with it.
It will take the signatures of more than 60,000 registered Montana voters to get this initiative on the 2022 November ballot. Whichever committee or organization funds that effort will have until next spring to reach that goal. Reporter from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
If you stop by Montana Fair in Billings this year, you will find plenty to eat, from the Girl Scouts corn on the cob to a parfait that's made of mashed potatoes and brisket. But just down the midway, there's an option that's a bit healthier. Patrick O'Brien owns Bourbon Chicken Skewers, a business that he's had headquartered in Great Falls since 2009. It's one of the only places you can find steamed vegetables at the fair, with a delicious piece of skewered pork or chicken along with jasmine rice.
We don't have a fryer, we don't have a microwave. we cook on these grills. The fat can fall away, and it does. We serve steamed vegetables, and at the fair that's sort of a rare thing to find, but we wanted to offer a healthy option, and we attract people from all over the fairgrounds who come to get steamed vegetables, and we do really well with that. It's an add-on to our jasmine rice bowl. We call it the Works Bowl.
The dish is pretty popular. As the crew was whipping up a Works Bowl to get one on camera, it was sitting on the counter waiting for maybe 5 minutes before someone bought it up and they had to make another one for me to film. Oftentimes, the fancy fair food is a family business. Brian Chadwick has been working concessions at Montana Fair since he was 9 years old and now owns his own set of stands that sell cheese curds and funnel cakes. Between him and his cousin, they operate 9 stands at Montana Fair.
It's been in our blood. My dad worked for the people in the Coke tent when he was a kid, along with my cousin, my grandma, and then we ended up buying it from them about 20 years ago. And so we've just been kind of out here working the fairs since I was a kid and since my dad was a kid. So,
with about 30 years of fair food experience, Chadwick said one change he's seen is the addition of more local restaurants and food trucks pulling up to offer more variety over the years.
There's a lot more vendors, not necessarily more booths, but a lot more vendors bringing in different unique stuff. So, you know, you didn't see a lot of, like Taste of Asia or a Euro. You didn't see that. You know, it was all the corn dogs and cotton candies and the caramel apples, and now you're kind of seeing a lot more of varied food.
It seems like whatever you are hungering for, Montana Fair has an option that will satisfy. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mitch. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News, right here on Q2. As COVID cases rise, a local business owner stands by her preferred protocol to protect her clients. That's tonight in Your Health Matters. Keep it here.